So yeah, let's start with the introduction. I'm Sophie. I'm based in Barcelona. I'm originally from Germany, but I've been living here for 13 years now. I'm a mother of two, and I'm the co-founder of Kunoichi Growth, your marketing partner. So we're a company scaling tech companies with performance marketing. And we do it through running campaigns on LinkedIn, on Meta, and on Google, with helping you to generate a qualified lead pipeline. And the fun fact about, well, the name of the company, Kunoichi, means female ninja. And it's because I've been training martial arts myself since the age of 11. And now I'm teaching and training martial arts here in Barcelona. Okay. And why are we here? So for those of you who just joined, please rename yourself into your real name, not the Sophie Steffen, that's me. And introduce yourself in the chat with your name and where you're from, where you're located. Why we're here? Basically because I chased Fiona to pick her brain for 20 minutes a month ago. But yeah, like when did the story start? It started in 2014, so 11 years ago when I joined Softonic. And on my first day at Softonic, we were giving, a walkthrough of the company, different intro sessions from the leaders back then. And one of them was Fiona. And I was like, oh my God, she's such a boss lady. She's so bold. She doesn't seem to give a fuck. Well, maybe she did, but didn't seem to. She was so on point and so funny. I was like, I love this lady. Who is this? And ever since I was kind of Fiona Stalker pursuing her trajectory, now she's the captain of the ship of Softonic. And yeah, I have her. I persuaded her to ask her some questions. And well, Fiona has been at Softonic for more than 13 years. I had to look it up on the LinkedIn, starting as director of biz dev and then heading sales and now being the CEO of Softonic. And well, I mean, Fiona, you've been kind of leading the company through growth, through change, challenges, a lot of different, like scenarios and stages. And in our conversation today, we'll tackle all these topics about intuitive leadership. What does it mean? The importance of failure, imposter syndrome, but also how to build a culture of values over the years. Fiona, would you like to add anything to that short introduction?
So, first of all, thank you so much, Sophie, for inviting me on a Friday on Halloween. Very important day for us Irish. And I can't get away with much in this group because, Mary Chell and I worked together 20 years ago in a previous company. So I can't even lie about my past or how long I've lived in Barcelona. But I really appreciate everybody taking the time. Of course, the most important thing for me today is to have a conversation that's useful to you guys. So please, there is something you will know about me, and this is always true. I am very transparent and quite direct. So anything you'd like to ask me, there is no offense, no weird, no bad questions. I'm happy to answer anything that would be of use to any of you today, and I look forward to the chat.
Yes, awesome. And also feel free to add any juicy fun fact about yourself or anything personal whenever that there's a moment for that. But let's start with leadership because that's the topic. So again, as I said, you've led Softonic through different stages of change, growth, challenges. When you think about leadership now, what does it really mean for you today?
So, maybe to step indeed what you said about I work in Softonic for 13 years, and previous to that I worked in another company. And I remember when I got the job in Softonic, and Doro knows well, Alex Schwartz was actually a friend when he hired me. And I remember getting the job in Softonic and crying, and it wasn't from joy. It was because I was earning less than half of the salary I had been in my previous job. And I was like, oh my God. And I had left a company a year before, well, actually 2 years. I had my son and he needed me more than work. And so my second child, I have two, now a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old. So when I'd left, it was getting a job. And when I started in Softonic, I thought, wow, this company, I was employee number 297. We grew to 450. It was a company of rapid growth. And there I was thinking, this is very different than what I'm used to. And I had a team initially of 3 people. in biz dev, and then I moved into sales. From sales I moved into heading sales and operations, then I became the GM of Softonic, and then I think I took over marketing and revenue, and the last job before this one was ops. So I've pretty much covered everything within Softonic in the last number of years. And what I guess you've learned above all is that leadership is about people, and we all know this to be true. But when you're thrown into the thick of things, as I was when I was asked to become CEO, you really feel, okay, what is it that's true to me and what is it that I need to do? And so when I was asked to become CEO, it was a job I didn't want. I had seen in terms of family what running a company does. And so, if you and I have talked about this, for all of you founders and owners out there, I know the long hours, the work days that never end. And so, having grown up in a family where my dad was also with his own business, it was something I was like, I can't do this. I can't balance mom of two kids, and I can't do this workload and whatever, and the stress and the pressure. And you're responsible for people's lives and making sure that people have salaries, and making sure that people are well. And so it was a big responsibility. And I always thought I was a better number two than I was a number one. But at the time, the lovely chairman of the company said, "It's me or you." And he would have caused, if you describe, I have been once described as a bull in a china shop. I very much, that was the old
I
Fiona,
would second that.
but he really is. And so it was like, okay, if it's the two of us, I'll take it for 6 months and see where we go. And what I learned very much about leadership is you have to trust the people around you, because it is only through people that you will be able to reach anything of any success. And especially when you're not sure, they asked me to grow the company, but I didn't know how to lead a company, and I wasn't sure how to grow Softonic in a way that they were looking for. And so in that way, you go back to basics and you listen, you talk a lot. And in my case, I also phone friends. So people I had worked with in the past and said, I need some help, come back. So I think leadership, if I've learned anything, it's that it's a job that's impossible alone. And even if you're the best leader in the world, if you don't have people supporting you, and those people meaning from a work perspective and from an outside perspective, the husband, the friend, the coach, whatever it is, that it can be a quite lonely job. And so you need to be surrounded by good people who you trust to be able to succeed. And then it's about putting the right conditions in place. And for that, for me, from a leadership perspective, it's all about the culture.
Mm. I love the part that you say you have like the support net, that really is the importance, that you have people, you surround yourself with trust, that you can trust. Your network is the one that you can rely on. And you mentioned, yeah, it can be a lone posture there, even though it seemed something that's glamorous and a lot of people would like to be a leader. So something to pursue. So is there anything being a CEO that no one tells you? You mentioned already that you didn't want to be a CEO, but now that you are a CEO, is there anything hidden that you would like to add to that?
Well, I guess, it's two things that I probably didn't know as much. It's it's lonely in a way that I didn't understand. So I am a person who needs my tribe, and my tribe would be my friends, my peers, and those people around me. And I have been very privileged to work with many great people. And so when you become CEO, I guess the first thing was everything stops with you. And in the beginning, I looked too much for consensus, and therefore things were slow, decisions were slower, and I needed to make decisions whether I knew exactly the right answer or not. And in that things, data tells you a lot and intuition can tell you more. And so I think the first thing was the importance of making decisive decisions. Definitely was something that I didn't realize how critical it was when you became CEO. And of course, you have to listen, and of course, you have to take in the facts. But in the end, you are the person who decides. And I think probably the other thing is that, look, to find balance, in my case, it doesn't exist. So I have like a password getting into my computer for years, which was a mix up of find my balance. And I said, learn, forget about that. I mean, my way, my life, balance is, what you want to do is stop the pendulum swinging like this. But a bit off balance is something very normal and acceptable. And so this whole thing of been perfectly even keel and been balanced in my case with the personality that I have, it just doesn't happen. But what you have to do is manage the swings and go, a little bit up and down is good. But going too much up and down, which was definitely something in the beginning that I was doing, is neither healthy nor sustainable. So probably those from a CEO perspective is that balance for certain people can be overrated. So don't worry about it so much. Just find your middle, and also that you can't do this. It's lonely and you cannot do it alone.
Mm.
And you really do need, in my case at least, I have an amazing coach in Tony. I'm surrounded by great friends, and I have support at home that I'm very lucky to have, because otherwise it can be very physically and mentally draining.
So managing the swings would be the summary for
Now,
any
keep the
CEO
swings,
out there.
I think the thing is there will be swings. Don't
Mm.
make them swing like crazy. And that's,
Right.
and understand and not been so hard on yourself. I was so like, find my balance and do this. And honestly, I was saying to my personal trainer last week, I was like, look, that's not me. This find the balance is not me. But what I want to do is keep the swings a little bit less crazy.
Yeah, and don't be so hard on yourself. That was one of the things you told me a month ago, and it's really it helps me to, yeah, really not being so hard on myself when I have to make a decision, when I think I'm screwing up, when I'm like overwhelmed. It's like, okay, pause, and yeah, we're all human. We're learning, we're in this human theater, and just like getting on with our lives and trying to make the best. And you mentioned decision making, the importance of making decisions as a leader, which would tie into the next topic, like the importance of making maybe wrong decisions or failing at something that you would have done differently. So can you talk a little bit about what's your standpoint on failure, if we can call it like failure? And is there a moment that failure has taught you something important?
So I think, I'm looking at a group of people in Softonic, and Jesus, you especially know well that in Softonic we fail a lot. But I think the difference between how I would have considered failure in the past and now is that the worst you can do is not try. And in Softonic, before I became CEO, we had a really good CEO who had taken, we lost our Google contract in 2014, and we went from 450 people to 125. For those in Spain, the word that is most dreaded in most companies is something called ERE. ERE is when you lose over 10% of the people. It's a horrible process. And Softonic went through us, and it kind of ripped us apart. But at the time, culture and values are very important. And Softonicos, as we call ourselves, are resilient. And so we came back, but we came back to steadiness. We were steady. We weren't growing hugely. We were profitable, but we were steady. And so the thing that I was asked to do was grow the business. And if you aren't prepared to take risks, knowing that most of them will fail, you're not going to be able to change the things. So in the beginning, I was a bit too crazy. So when I became CEO first, we created a new initiative department, and it was like, off you go, try. And sure, everything was been thrown on the walls, and there wasn't much, as my mother would say, head nor tail to things. I think we didn't have a proper plan with data. And so you've got to mix both. So you've got to use the data, you've got to do the research, and then you've got to mix that with, okay, I'm going to try and fail. But if there's anything that is so important, and I've just finished half year reviews, and everyone in my leadership team heard this, it's like we've got to do the retros and to celebrate the failure as you do with the wins, because it's about learning and knowing that it's not all going to go well, and that's okay. And feeling comfortable with failure, owning the failure and presenting it to the company and go, yeah, you know what, this didn't work, but this is what we learned. For me, is as important as a win, often, because it's each step to a place that is taking you somewhere more. And we have grown now. This year will be our highest revenues since the crazy days of 2013. We are over double since 2020, significantly more. We're going to have an EBITDA number this year that we haven't seen in a long, long time. And we're doing it with a team of 100. And that is really down to trying and failing and getting it wrong, and going again. And then if you ask me, the failure and celebrating failure is critical, but so too is resilience, because if there's a song that is often in my head that I annoy people at work, it's, I get knocked down and I get up again. And that has to be something that you're celebrating and you're moving to if you want to grow.
Mm. Yeah, resilience is all about that image. And actually, I'm in the dojo now, so I can share this
Oh, there you
Daruma.
go.
Maybe some of you know it. It's called Daruma. It's a Japanese puppy, I would say. And Daruma actually means like falling 7 times and getting up 8. So doesn't matter how often you fail. The important is getting up again. So that's how you build up resilience. Which also ties into like this overall discussed topic of the imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome is something that when you have it, you know it, and you're like, what the fuck is this? So it's feeling that you're faking of actually knowing. So you're like pretending and you're feeling like a fraud. So many leaders and successful leaders have faced it or even face it. Have you faced this imposter syndrome, Fiona? And if yes, how do you handle or still handle it nowadays?
So there's two things about imposter syndrome that for me are very important to share. So first of all, imposter syndrome can mean something actually quite medical. And so when somebody suffers severely from imposter syndrome, it can mean that, you'll need to get support that is outside of people support. And actually, it happened to my brother, who is a scientist in New Zealand, and he felt out of water. And in the end, he had to go and see somebody because it was turning into actually some kind of depression. So I don't want to in any way, shape, or form say that imposter syndrome cannot feel very real and cannot be a scary and actually support needing thing to feel and know. However, in the case of the majority of people who feel imposter syndrome, and I count myself around that, and just to put things in perspective, there was a study done last year, and 75% of women in a senior executive position feel imposter syndrome, and over 50% of men. So, yes, a little bit more than women, but still, most people at some part in their life, when they're growing and moving up in an organization, the majority of people will at some stage feel imposter syndrome. And so, what does it mean for me? I think imposter syndrome and feeling I can't do this or I'm not sure about this is something very normal when you're growing. And I have said this before and I'll say it again. And I think, when you're going and you're challenging yourself and you're doing new things and you're experiencing new things, it is quite normal to feel a bit out of your depth. It is quite normal to go, I don't know what I'm doing. It is quite normal to feel the fear of, how am I going to make this work? What is happening? And that for often people is part of imposter or the I can't do this. But that is part of growth. And so if you are in leadership positions, and especially if you're growing, if you're leading your own company, the normality of imposter syndrome is something that at least I have said before, and I'll say it again. It's like something that often is to be embraced because it means that you're outside of your comfort zone and that you're trying new things and you're feeling things that are very normal when you're in growth mode. So, imposter syndrome, most people have it. It is something that often can be something to consider as a positive because it means you're growing and pushing yourself out of comfort zones, which is needed when you're growing in leadership.
Right. So both failure and imposter syndrome can be seen as something positive because it means we're learning and we're growing. And that also speaks about the role of being compassionate and intuitive about yourself and your own journey, but also with others. So when we prepared this meetup, we were talking about intuitive leadership and how that ties into decision making. So how would you balance this intuitive part with the actual decision making, maybe based more on stats or on, we have to chase numbers. We're a company where we have to make revenue. And you mentioned it's been the most successful year this year since 2013. So how do you balance that more intuitive part and the, hardcore decision making?
Look, I think in the beginning, I led more from intuition when you don't know what you're doing and sometimes you're uncertain about and you don't have all the data. You can rely maybe, especially as a female, on more on intuition, but that doesn't make it the best way to do it. It has to be a combination of both. Right, Raoul? And so in the beginning, intuitive leadership, also it's in how you're doing things and needing things in terms of how we were hiring people. We use AI, we use a lot of tools and systems, but I was saying it's very important that somebody can feel the connection, that you're looking at the groups together, that you're connecting with people over coffee. So, and for example, when we were hiring people, it came perfectly acceptable to say, okay, I feel this person is a good fit, and here's the data to back it up, but both I think are needed. How do you balance it? I think that you need data in this way and this world and everything around it. Data can give you huge insights, but often, especially in things like recruitment of people and when it comes to building teams together, you need to see and look at how those people will connect on a personal level as well as anything else, and to trust your gut. I can tell you honestly, the only times I have really failed where I've been disappointed with myself is when I didn't trust my gut and I trusted the data. Um, and I have done that, with hiring people and other things on paper, perfect, very good reference, all of this, right? And the feeling of, I'm not sure they're a right fit. And you go, no, 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 they are. They're perfect. They've gone through all the process. It's this, and this. It's when you don't trust your gut that you'll tend to make mistakes. The important thing is to learn to listen to that. And what does it mean to listen to your gut? It is, it's a feeling, it's a sensation, it's any of these things. But to do it, many people do a million different things. There's breath work, and there is meditation, and there is journaling, and there's a million ways of connecting. But giving the time to be present and to listen to things that are coming up is something that is a skill that can be practiced, is a skill that, from my perspective, is very important in the world we're living right now. And then you make sure you have the data, and then you listen to what you're telling you, because that's knowledge.
Yeah, and also talking about people and being able to read people is that intuitive part that, I mean, we're human in the end, we're not robots, but to back it up with data helps to make that decision even stronger. And moving into people, human resources, and the importance of cultures and values, and the importance of a successful company the is the people working in the company. So, what are the core values that you pursue in your leadership at Softonic?
So we did a huge amount of work, huge, on a culture change program over the last 3 years. So we knew we had 6 values before, and when we actually asked people what they were, less than 30% could name all 6 of them. And they were, the responsibility was one, and innovation, and I don't even remember all of them at the moment, and that's how sad things are. And we knew that if we wanted to change our culture to be more risk taking, to be moving away from maybe an assisted culture to a more performance driven one, to move, to be more collaborative, to be more outward thinking, and to take the responsibility in keeping some of the values that we always had, we needed to do a culture program. So we brought in somebody to help us, Alexander Rashid, and she started by talking to everybody in the company and saying, okay, what are the values that we have now, right now? What are the values that matter most to you? And where is it that you think we need to go to succeed? And there was workshops across the organization. And from this came our 4 values. And I absolutely, when I heard them, I got goosebumps. I actually really was so convinced that they were the right values for us and the time. And the 4 values are, the first one is, we say responsibility, own your shit, call it what you want. In our case, the value is step up. And the second value is work smart. We use AI, we evolve how we're doing things, we're looking outside, and we have that as a core value of what we need to do, work smart. The third one is one team. You do not function without the team. And so it's not just about collaborating, but it's also about caring about each other. And it's also about working together for the greater good. And that is one team. And we have, as part of that one team value, it's also that we need to have fun. And the final one is think big. And so that is the innovation, looking outside and everything. So it's work smart, think big, one team, and step up. And there are values and they are everywhere. And we actually put a name on the program, and the program, the transformation program, is called Above and Beyond. And this is, we have workshops around it, we have gamification, and I really take the chance to salute Raul and Renata, the two people who are here on this chat, who have done amazing work in getting us to really live these values, focusing on the behavior. And you'll see it in the company. You walk in, it's not just about words on the wall, but it is that you feel and see that these are things we live and breathe. These are values that we acknowledge. We give people, we have a value of the month, and people get mugs, and we do twice year meetups around the values and the behaviors. So for me, values and culture are not words, they're how you have to live and breathe. We are privileged to have had great support in doing this, but it's a transition. And I can't say to you, yeah, we've got it, we're there, everything is perfect, because it's not. But definitely, I account a lot of the fact that how well we're doing to the fact that we have introduced these values and that our culture is these, and that we live and breathe it. And then you see the results afterwards.
And I can only second that, because for me, when I joined Softonic, it really stood out that there is a culture of values. People first, yes, get shit done. But for me, that's why I love Softonic, because it really feels like it's not bullshit. It's really like you can feel it. People are a team. And it's special. I mean, I've worked for more than 50 companies in the past 7 years, and like Softonic is very special in that sense. So good job there to all the team. And yeah, wrapping up the interview part. So those of you who are still in the call and would like to ask Fiona a question, please type it in the chat, while I have a last question for Fiona. This is just maybe on a personal note, if you have any final advice on how do you personally recharge. And you already talked about, it's not about finding the balance. You're not a balance person. It's minimizing the swings. Is there anything, like your go-to thing that you do, or person or hobby or whatever that really disconnects you, recharges you, or any advice that you can give?
Look, it's not one thing I do. I mean, as for me, I do multiple things, but the things that save you, I mean, exercise is, and in my case, that is actually walks in nature more than pure exercise, is obviously one. The second one is, for me, practicing gratefulness and journaling, especially when I have a shit day, can change the mood significantly. The third is I am blessed with a coach. The fourth is I do breath work. And that is really how you connect, in my case, with intuition, because unfortunately or fortunately, all this meditation and quietening the mind is very difficult for me. So I do breath work. Although I do have an array of apps. Dora, you'd be proud of me. I think I have about 10 meditation apps, but use is more limited to breath work. But the thing I also do and swear by doing is one weekend a month, I take it off to do a recharge weekend. And in that weekend, I do whatever I need to do to recharge. It could be go for a yoga weekend. It could be whatever. It could be do nothing. It could be hang out with my kids. And last week, and I'm going to actually put a post up, right, Raoul, about it. So last week, I went to the desert of Morocco for a week with no phones and no books. Now, the first day I wanted to run away, especially when there was a mouse in my room. Desert of Morocco, just journaling and with a group of people connecting. And that actually gave me so many answers and gave me so much help and really helped my this week's performance reviews. And so these things are what I do. That was extreme even for me, but doing something to help you connect, whatever that is for me critical to do the job we're all hoping and to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I mean, I love retreats.
I'm
I
still getting
haven't
sand out of my hair, by the way.
yeah, I have never been to the desert. I heard about quiet retreats and like even dark retreats. Elizabeth Gilbert, one of my favorite authors, went on a 5-day, I think, silent dark retreat in the
Yeah.
caves. And I don't know if I would be up for that, but definitely the daily work, moving the body, moving the mind, maybe breath work,
Yeah.
meditation, journaling. It's also great. I do it every day. The Artist Way, a great book to recommend. It's a course where you can tap into your more creative self. which also talks a lot about these other tools that you can, build up like a toolkit. It's not just one tool, it's like a toolkit. So yeah,
exactly. I
love
don't
that.
think there's one thing you can say. By the way, though, the desert, I had a real heart attack when I signed up without knowing that it was going to be something like silence. I had visions of myself sitting cross-legged, tears running down my face, flies eating me. And I was like, if it's this, I'm not going. But it wasn't silence, it was walks. We did have food. We were able to speak, thank God. As you can imagine, the silence would have been difficult for me, but it was also plenty of silence. And I think finding something that works for you to be able to disconnect is a great way to reconnect.
Yeah, let's leave it here.
Yeah.
So we give each other 1 minute, last minute questions to Fiona. Otherwise, we'll move into the networking part. We'll have to shorten it because I will stop on time at 12:00 so that everybody can go back to work. While we wait for this last minute questions, if there are any, you can already think about how you would like to pitch yourself. Think about the elevator pitch about yourself, who you are, what do you do, how do you add value. So this will be your way to introduce yourself into these smaller groups. We are going to do 3 breakouts rooms. So we will have 4 or 5 people in each room. So yeah, let's see if there's any last minute question. I mean, I grilled you a lot, Fiona. And again, I will be sending out this recording. Thank you, Fiona, for sharing. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, Kate, Fiona, psychological safety is a topic that fascinates me, and culture comes from the top. What level of internal politics will you tolerate as leader among peers? What is a no-go for you?
Do you know, that was a very good question, Kate, because it came a topic yesterday that I discussed on the way home with our VP of People. So um, I am by my nature quite direct. And so the responsibility value, owning your shit is very important. I don't like politics. It's part of a game that indeed often at senior levels you have to play. You've got board, you've got this. But if you have something to say it to me directly. And I think that right now, when somebody comes to me moaning about somebody else, it's something that I'm like, have you talked to that person? So I think not allowing as much as possible the back stories to enter, and getting people to be brave and have a space with psychological safety that they can bring the issues up front is key, because otherwise you're in a situation of, for me, politics can often be more toxic than anything else. And so, yeah, I don't allow the back bitching is something that is normal, but do it to each other.
Yeah, be upfront, be a
I
bitch
hope,
in the face.
yeah, and be brave and say it to each other's faces.